Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo Saranto Suche Doye Ola Hadi Samyao Samputo Shen. Okay, together. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning. Good evening, everyone. Let me introduce you, Guofang Shi, the Master Guofang. The first time I saw her, it was like she was around 10 years old, coming down from the bus from LA, and immediately she and her sister came to the Buddha hall and said, we want to take 5 precepts. And that was practices to enlightenment. So they have to study so many dharmas, and they are very vigorous. Another characteristic about the fourth ground bodhisattva is that they have made a lot of achievements. And most of all, the one stands out from others is that bodhisattvas are able to rid of the view of the self. And because of this, they are known to develop the world-transcending wisdom. And that's why, this ground, the ground of the blazing wisdom, the reason why the wisdom, can, blaze is because they don't have the perception of the self any longer. And we worldly people, the reason why we suffer is because of the attachment to the self. When we entertain the idea of the self all the time, we cannot have really real wisdom. All we think about is, how am I going to have the happiness? How am I going to help the family to be prosperous or enjoy the satisfactory success? And we cannot break that scope. But the bodhisattvas on the fourth ground, because if they already have free the confinement of the self, so their wisdom can transcend the world. It's the beginning of their practice to transcend the world. So the fourth ground, why? How can they get that achievement? Because they practice the 37 practices, and each one of them leads to enlightenment. Okay, so this is a very brief recap for the fourth ground. Of course, and how do they practice vigor? We are not bodhisattvas, but we can always relay we can always be mindful of how bodhisattvas on the fourth ground practice vigor. It's in the text. If you turn to page 11, when the bodhisattva is studying the 37 practices to enlightenment, and how can they have that 精进觉分, the awakening component of a vigor, they emphasize distaste for suffering, emphasize leaving behind desires, emphasize cessation of suffering, and make transference to serenity. How? They have to practice the proper path, the Eightfold Path, okay? So this is really important. Ordinary people can be very vigorous, but they don't necessarily focus on the right path. They are very vigorous to make money, to be famous, to enjoy, to indulge in desires, right? So I'm sure you are not like them, because you come here on Saturday evenings to study the Buddha Dharma. You didn't go to parties. You didn't, spend time doing something not right. You want to study and advance your practice. This is really good. Okay. Feel free to ask questions or make comments. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I need Master to elaborate this Ru Dao, why the sutra uses Ru Dao to describe this program.
Ru Dao means entering the way, entering the path.
Why is not first ground, second ground?
The first three grounds are still in the world. The first ground and the second ground, bodhisattva can be kings or rulers in the human realm, and the third ground will be go to the heaven, but starting from the fourth, because I think it's because of their wisdom transcending the world. And when all dharmas talking about like the 100 Dharma Shastra. The Buddha said, all dharmas have no intrinsic nature. We don't realize that. We don't understand that. My body is here. I have feelings, and this is the form of me, and I have things associated with me. If you're talking about there's no intrinsic nature about me, I don't believe it. All my sensation, perception are so real. I couldn't believe that. But the fourth ground bodhisattva, because of their cultivation, because they really focus, they want to deal with the defilement in their nature. And they advance, and so free of the obstacles to move on, so they can enter the fourth ground. By entering the fourth ground, they already be free of the confinement of the self. That's Tao. The Tao says, all the things, all the attributes, all the phenomena we see that are moving, they constantly change. The reason why they are existent is because of conditions. Conditions make them there. When the conditions are gone, all the dharmas, the phenomena are gone too. Bodhisattva on the fourth ground, they understand this. So they can enter the way. And when they enter the way, that's how they will realize the Dharma body in the totality. They are moving that towards that direction. Okay? So this is why in the sixth Petra Sutra talking about, if you don't understand the mind, it's, you don't get benefits from studying the Dharma. even though we come here to study the Avatamsaka Sutra, how Bodhisattva practiced the path, we just have some ideas. We don't really understand what the Bodhisattva are talking about here. We just have an idea. We don't. But when the Bodhisattvas, they are on the ground, they are moving towards that perfection of the cultivation, and by getting rid of the ignorance from their nature. Is this okay? Any other questions? Okay, then we can go on to the text. This evening we're going to study the text on page 17. Okay, we will read the Chinese text first and then the English. Okay, Chinese text is on page 16, the second paragraph, starting with 是菩萨. Okay, the fifth line. Okay, together. 是菩萨心戒清净，身心不失，误解名利，善根增长，离世垢浊，断诸疑惑，明断具足，喜乐充满，佛亲护念，无量智乐，皆悉成就. Okay, English. The realm of this Bodhisattva's mind is pure. He never loses his deep resolve. His enlightened understanding is clear and keen. His roots of goodness increase and grow.
He goes beyond the world's defilements and turbidity. He lets go of all doubts and delusions. He is endowed with perfect clarity of severance, and he experiences profound joy. The Buddhas stay close by him, protect him, and keep him in mind. His limitless resolutions and inclinations all become accomplished.
Okay, so this paragraph talks about the fruition of the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva practiced the way and really wished to realize the all modes of wisdom from the nature. So the Bodhisattva was very vigorous and always focused on the path. And never thinking about other things. So that's why the Bodhisattva can enjoy the fruits. And this one, talking about, when the Bodhisattva has that wish that I want to realize the levels of the upper grades. And so the Bodhisattva wished to spend all the efforts to realize that. And this 心戒清净, the mind is pure, his mind is pure, talking about the Bodhi resolve, the Bodhi. We all have the Bodhi mind. Our mind is Bodhi. Bodhi means awakening. Okay, but even though we have that Bodhi, we have that understanding, enlightenment, awakening, but it's covered by the defilement, by our ignorance. And according to how many shares are removed from the nature, the Bodhisattva's clarity, the Bodhi, will manifest how many shares. Does that make sense? Is this clear? Like originally we have the totality to understand everything in the Dharma realm. But because my laziness, and that laziness covered a little bit of my clarity, or because of my greed, and that part also covers a little bit. And I have different kinds of defilement, and all these different defilement cover the different parts. And now the Bodhisattva made the resolve, I want to deal with my greed. I will never be greedy about sleep. I will never be greedy about the fame. I will never be greedy about wealth. So see however part the Bodhisattva is willing to deal with it. And then that part is removed, then the Bodhi manifests that part, that much. And this pure refers to what? Just like I said, when the defilement is removed, then the purity is restored. Okay. And when a practitioner is mindful to the true dustness, true dustness refers to our true mind, the Bodhi, and cultivate a way that suitable for the bodhisattvas above. And then that's the bodhisattva is doing the right thing. Okay, you cannot be satisfied with your achievement, your work right now. There's room for you to develop, to advance, and you always mindful. The totality of my true mind is not realized yet. I have not done my job yet. I need to work. I need to move on. I need to go upward. And so when a bodhisattva is able to be mindful like that and focus his or her practice that way, then this bodhisattva's mind is on the right direction, is doing the right thing. Okay. Yes. What do you think? When? Where? Good question. Why do you ask this question? Anybody have any answers? Huh? Yes? Okay, can you hear through contemplation while you are meditating? Philip, you have an answer? Where can you find your own mind? Where can you find your mind? Oh, I see. I think for me, I study the Shurangama Sutra. Okay, the Shurangama Sutra is known the sutra for enlightenment. And enlightened to what? Enlightened to all the minds that I have used, and I know of, is this consciousness. When my eyes see the form, and I know there's a man, there's a woman, or there's a dog, there's a house. But when my eyes don't see all these objects, then I don't know what's there. But then the Sharangamaya Sutra talking about, the consciousness. The consciousness is not your true mind, because when the sense objects are not there, then we have no understanding, we have no awareness. Our awareness is very limited. It's conditional, okay? And then after that, the Buddha talking about the 10 revelation or the 10 explanation about the true mind. Then Venerable Ananda, his cousin, very knowledgeable, the most erudite disciples, understand, oh, so there's the mind that I've never, I never know of. I always use my consciousness. And so you need to study. When you study, and then you understand consciousness is very limited. Without the objects, we really don't. We have no ideas. We have no understanding. It's non-enlightenment. And so this is why studying the Buddha Dharma, read the sutra text. It will help you to have the right knowledge, and that's where you want to explore, and you want to know more, and you want to. I think that's the beginning, But to really believe this is really, really difficult. Even as knowledgeable as Venerable Purna, he's the most eloquent disciple of the Buddha. He didn't understand, what he didn't understand? He didn't understand, since our true mind, the nature, our inherent nature, is pure and all-pervasive in this Dhamma realm, then since it's pure, it's genuine, empty, why would all these mountains, rivers, beings like humans and the animals, all these different beings will appear in the world? He didn't understand that. So there are doubts, So I think studying the Buddha Dharma or listening to the Dharma is not enough. You need to explore, you need to contemplate, like Valerie said. You need to contemplate whether the Buddha Dharma is true. You need to have experience. You need to have a knowledge. Why? How do you have the right knowledge? You need to practice. Okay, practice will help you to gain the true wisdom, and that true wisdom really comes from within. Okay, so how do you gain true wisdom? Like we are here exploring the bodhisattvas on the ground, how they really, really cultivate. They need to remove the doubts, like the fourth ground, bodhisattva, ground of blazing wisdom. They need to free of the 4 upside down thoughts. Body is impure, okay? Perceptions are suffering, and the mind is impermanent. And dharmas have no self, no intrinsic nature. We don't understand this. We always think our body is really wonderful. And we don't have the right views. So the bodhisattvas, all the practitioners, we all have to remove the doubts to have the supreme understanding about the teaching of the Dharma. Your question is really profound, but that's something I can think of to answer your question, and that's my answer. For you to really get an idea, I think you need to. Since you already asked this question, I think you know the importance to find our true mind. Okay, so when you put your mindfulness, when you are mindful about this question, you are already exploring it. And my suggestions to study the Dharma and ponder the Dharma and practice and contemplate, and you will know more and more. When your doubts are freed, then definitely you will have more faith, and you will walk on the right path. Is this okay with the person? I really like questions. Guofanzi likes questions too. So please ask questions. What do you think about my input? Is that okay? Or anybody like to add something or ask more questions?
It's like lots of masters point out Buddha always just show us the way, but we have to walk by ourselves.
But most of us wouldn't know there's a true mind. We think we are functioning right. I have sensation, I have feelings, I have this, I have that. What else shall I need? What's the good point to meditate, to suffer, from sitting? And why do I have to study so many sutras? Why do I have to uphold the precepts to give me restrictions? Why? All these help us to find our true mind, because our mind has been defiled, go off the path, and we have lost connections. We have lost track of our true mind, so we don't know how we were. We were very compassionate. We were very wise. We were unmoved all the time. That's our true mind, our nature. And that nature is an inexhaustible treasure. Everything we need, or everything other people need, it's all in our treasure. But we don't know that. We don't know that, and we are used to our, false mind, this consciousness. And so that's why we suffer. When you are able to find your true mind, you will realize the four characteristics of the nirvana, which is permanence and joy and the true self and purity. Okay. But right now we don't have that. We always are subject to, flux, because conditions change all the time. So we don't have control. We have no control over anything. But the true mind does. The true mind is free. The true mind is happy. The true mind, doesn't matter anything. And okay, any comments from the audience here? Or do you have any other questions? I really hope you will, courageously, bring up questions. Because I tell you the truth, I didn't bring my notes. I put it in my other book. All right. If you have no question, then we can go on to next one. He never loses his deep resolve. The first one is the general things about how the bodhisattva doing satisfactory work to fulfill the mind is pure. How can you really enjoy the fruition? The mind, the bodhisattva's mind is pure. And then the next 9 phrases talking about the individual quality of his practice. He never loses his deep resolve. What is his deep resolve? Remember, Bodhisattva needs to focus, right? So his resolve is that I will realize the way. I will realize Bodhi. Okay, I want to advance in my cultivation. I want to get benefits. Anything obstruct your advancement, you will not do it. The Bodhisattva will not do it. Like going to a party on Saturday night, that doesn't help. Okay, I would just, I want to use my time right. I want to deal with my obstacles. I want to study more Dharma. And so this person, the Bodhisattva, his mind for the way, the path, he wants to advance his cultivation. He will never lose that resolve. How many of you are mindful of this? I will never lose my deep resolve for my cultivation. What is your resolve for cultivation? Do you want to meditate longer? Do you want to have more wisdom? Do you want to have more what? What is your deep resolve? What is your resolve if it's not deep? Our resolve can be, I want to deal with my greed. I want to deal with my attachment to sleep, So the Bodhisattva never loses that deep resolve. That means even though someone challenges you, oh, you are so vigorous. You don't go, with us to travel, and you will not be moved. You say, okay, during the Chinese Lunar Year, I went back to Taiwan, and I had a gathering with my college friends, and they tried to recruit more people to join their choir, and one of my friends, she didn't want to. She said, I have so many practices. I need to bow so many bows. I need to. I said, They challenged her. You said, oh, you are a good cultivator, huh? You cannot miss even just one night of the week. And she was not moved. Okay, so I know she doesn't want to lose her resolve. I want to be a good practitioner. I want to be practicing the way on a regular basis. Okay. His enlightened understanding is clear and keen. Because he's so focused, so his understanding is clear and keen. The mind, the true mind, is understanding. Okay, so this Bodhisattva's understanding is clear and clean and keen. This refers to what? His resolve, because he never loses his deep resolve. I want to advance in my cultivation. How can I move up? I need to, I want my goal, my focus is there, one level up. So I want to realize the fifth ground, the level. Like me, I'm very scattered. When I sit in meditation, I couldn't sit for half an hour. So my focus is maybe I want to be able to sit for 1 hour. So when I sit for 20 minutes, my legs started to feel pain, and I don't want to give up because my resolve is I want to achieve that 1 hour sit. That's the resolution. Okay, I'm very clear. I will never be moved. I just want to realize that. I want to celebrate that achievement. Okay, so the Bodhisattva understanding is clear and keen. His roots of goodness increase and grow. Why? Because he has dealt with his obstacles. Like when I sit for 20 minutes, I gave up to that pain, so I cannot, pain becomes an obstacle of my sitting, being able to sit longer. So if I can deal with that obstacles and remove that defilement or conditions, that's how I make progress. That's how I increase. So I can deal with the obstacles. I overcome the obstacles, and that's why my roots of goodness increase and grow. There's always cause and effect. If you don't face difficulty, if you don't face the uncomfortable side, how can you enjoy success, right? We have to earn success. How does the Bodhisattva being able to increase roots of goodness and grow? Efforts, okay? Deal with obstacles. Is this okay? And then you can think about, it didn't say what kind of obstacles the Bodhisattva dealt with, but maybe we can just, thinking about from the 37 practices to enlightenment, and like the 4 efforts, the first 2, if I have given rise to some bad habits, I need to remove them. And all the bad habits I didn't have, and I will never allow them to arise. This is internal. Internally, if I have any unwholesome habits, I have to deal with it. Like if I'm very narrow-minded, so every time when people talking about someone else's achievement, look at Guo Fangsi. She's so kind. She's always considerate. She's always ready to serve people. And I'm very jealous. I want to be Guo Fangsi. How all these comments are not talking about me? Every time I heard about those comments, I feel jealous. I'm jealous. And that's the obstacles. I cannot. Of course, this is just an example, not talking about the 4th ground. 4th ground already free of the self, So, but they still have the obstacles prevent them from moving up. So, and then the 4 right efforts, the next 2, the 3rd and the 4th, the Bodhisattva needs to do the good deeds. If I already have this, I'm not narrow-minded. I have to be even more broader and include everybody, every being in the world. So I need to do that. And other good qualities I don't have, I need to develop them. So to benefit others, okay? So how can I benefit myself by removing the inner defilement? How can I benefit others outside by helping them, serving them? These kind of obstacles, the Bodhisattvas always focus and be mindful. So that's how the Bodhisattva's roots of goodness can increase and grow. He goes beyond the world's defilements and turbidity. Since he is able to deal with the obstacles, inside and outside, the obstacles of afflictions, the fetters, are reduced. So they can go beyond the world's defilements and turbidity. 这就是灭除烦恼障. We have 2 kinds of obstacles. One is obstacles of fetters, afflictions. And the next one is 所知障. Okay, 所知障, the obstacles of the dharmas. attached to the dharmas. He lets go of all doubts and delusions. Like I said, practitioners, how they make progress, they have to be free of doubts and delusions. Purna, Venerable Purna, he was so knowledgeable, he was an arhat, but he still couldn't understand. Since the true mind is empty, then how do I see all these things, mountains, rivers, and the great earth and the beings in the world? So, so he has that doubts about the true mind. And then when he understands, one mind has three aspects. The fundamental one is genuine emptiness. But from that genuine emptiness, it could give rise to wonderful existence. All the phenomena arises from that true emptiness. So it becomes not empty. But the third aspect of the mind says it's empty and yet not empty. So they can coexist. Emptiness and existence, the phenomena can coexist. When he understands this, Venerable Purna, free of all the doubts and delusions, so he can focus on his progress, meditate. I'll just free of any notions, any ideas. I now understand everything arises from the true mind, and all these phenomena, they don't have an intrinsic nature. So I can just focus on the mind, the true mind, then leave behind all the objects. Then I'll be able to realize that state. So this Bodhisattva on the fourth ground also does the same thing, let go of all doubts and delusions. Is this okay? Okay. So he lets go of all doubts and delusions. That means, for the Bodhisattva on the fourth ground, a lot of the principles are too subtle. Like when Venerable Master explained the Avatamsaka Sutra, he always used this 微细微细微细的, like delusion or doubts. There could be very subtle doubts, and when a practitioner makes a progress, just a little bit progress, it's very, very subtle. But when that subtle progress is made, your understanding will be, very profound. That's my experience. So when a bodhisattva is able to rid of that subtle doubts, the reason why it's so subtle, because it's hard to understand. It's hard to grasp. It's hard to imagine. You need to be very focused and spend efforts and not be moved by other things, or not to be moved in an instant. You just focus and focus, so you can break through, you can penetrate into the principles. And so that's how the doubts and the delusions are able to be free. And after that, so the bodhisattva can celebrate. Celebrate what? When your doubts and delusions are gone, you have a clarity. You have even more clarity, okay? So that's why the next one says, he's endowed with the perfect clarity of severance. Sever, when the doubts and delusions are severed, this person, the bodhisattva, is endowed with a perfect clarity. So this is, I think, all these are, related and connected. So when the doubts are gone, then the bodhisattva can be very decisive. And he experiences profound joy. Yes. I'm not a bodhisattva, but I know if we are focused, like for me, I can just share when I studied the Buddha Dharma, like when I studied the Shurangama Sutra, I didn't really study the Avatamsaka. I'm very lazy. I'm very ashamed of myself. Bodhisattva needs to study the Avatamsaka Sutra. And I'm not that level, so I started with the Shurangama. Every time when I studied the Shurangama, I took notes, and I feel great joy because when you understand the direction, the process of cultivation, you know what cultivation is all about. There's no shortcut. There's no easy bargain, easy way. You have to do your practice very honestly. If without taking the precepts, you will not be able to develop your samadhi, concentration. And without the concentration, you cannot have wisdom. You will always feel disappointed about your decision, about what you said, about what you thought, So then, and after many, many years being a nun, I really think, uphold the precepts will definitely help us to move a lot of doubts. We will have a very, we will be really certain about the cultivation, the direction. Nobody can help you. You need to walk the path. Live up to your words. Like every time when I explain something, if I cannot do it, I feel ashamed, and I cannot say it in a firm way. Maybe Guofanzi can share your experience.
Well, for myself, the Avatamsaka is the longest sutra I've ever read, ever seen. And every time I look at it, I see all these lists of 10 dharmas, like the 10 transferences, the 10 conducts, the 10 dwellings, and then of course there's Universal Worthy Bodhisattva, who has 10 vows. So there's all these lists, and it talks about all these bodhisattva states. And for me, it's it's incredible to me. And the Venerable Master always said that the Avatamsaka is absolutely boundless. And it keeps on repeating. It's like boundless and boundless and boundless. It's never ending. And the more I look at it, the more I really agree with it. But, like Dharma Sutta just said just now, these are what describes bodhisattvas' conducts. And we are all practicing. So if we want to be bodhisattvas, this is something we can refer to. When I looked at the Avatamsaka yesterday, I came upon some very interesting stories. And I remember reading this story a long, long time ago, and I almost forgot it, but there was a Tripitaka master. His Chinese transliteration is Chona Batolo. I forgot the Sanskrit, but I've read his name somewhere before.
Does anybody know?
Chona Batolo.
What is his English name, Sanskrit name?
Don't quite remember, but he is from India, and he started out with the small vehicle, and then he started to go towards the great vehicle. So when he transferred to the great vehicle Dharma, he sought out a teacher. And his teacher was a very interesting Dharma master. He would put in names of all the great vehicle sutras, like the Shuragama Sutra, the Avatamsaka Sutra, Lotus Sutra, the Diamond Sutra. He would put it all in a box, and then he would tell every single disciple, come in and just pick out a piece of paper, and that will be your sutra. That's the sutra you're going to investigate. That's the sutra you're going to study. So when it came to this Dharma master, Chona Batolo, he put his hand in and he got out the Avatamsaka Sutra. He was so happy, and his teacher told him, you have affinities with this sutra. So he studied the sutra for many years, and during the around the 5th century, he came over to China. The emperor during that time was extremely happy, and he sent people to go over and welcome him over. But great master Chono Batolo, he had a problem. He couldn't speak Chinese, and he didn't understand Chinese at all. So he stayed in the monastery and he bowed and investigated the Avatamsaka Sutra, but he was sad because he couldn't communicate or lecture on the Avatamsaka Sutra to the Chinese people. So what he did, and since it is the Guanyin session at the City 10,000 Buddhas, he bowed to Guanyin Bodhisattva. And he asked Guanyin Bodhisattva for help because he wanted to lecture on the Avatamsaka. One night, he dreamt of a great shining soldier, or great spirit in a shining armor. He had in one hand a jewel sword, and in another hand he held a human's head. And he asked him, why are you so sad? So Venerable Chona Batolo said, I came to lecture on the Avatamsaka, but I can't speak Chinese and I can't read Chinese. I don't understand Chinese. I don't know how I'm going to do this. So he said, is that all? That's totally fine. So he took his jewel sword and cut off the Dharma master's head and replaced it with the head he had in his hand. He's like, okay. And it didn't hurt at all. He's like, okay, you can go and lecture on your sutra. When he woke up, he never studied Chinese in his life, but he could speak Chinese. It was amazing. And after that, he also did not forget Sanskrit. So he started translating the Lankavatara Sutra, Lanqie Sutra, and he continued to lecture on the Avatamsaka Sutra. Actually, when I read this story again yesterday, I remember my own experience. I am not Chinese. I was born in America. I was raised in America, and my parents are Vietnamese. But, coming in to live in a Chinese monastery, I came to think that knowing Chinese is very convenient, but I also love the language. I think it's a beautiful language. But, Chinese is, kind of not that easy to learn sometimes. In the early days at the City 10,000 Buddhas, the books of the Avatamsaka that we used to recite every morning at during 7 to 8, we didn't have the transliteration. It was just literally just characters like that. There was no English that was available in the Buddha hall. So I just had pages of Chinese characters, and I couldn't recite anything. So a Dharma master asked a novice who was sitting next to me to point out every single character while we recited the same universal door chapter every single morning. And the good thing about the Shiragama, the Avatamsaka, it repeats itself a lot. It says, number 1, the first character I recognized was 1. That one line. I was so delighted. That's one line. I had Chinese classes, but I forget everything after the test. So it'd be 1, and then 2, and 3, and then you would, there's repetitive characters, and they're simple characters. And I could see that, I heard the recitation of this character and this character. After weeks and weeks of the same thing, in the mornings, you get really tired. So the nun who was next to me, pointing out every single character, she fell asleep in the middle of, the recitation. And when she woke up, she's like, where are we? And I was like, right there. And she's like, okay, you don't need me anymore. I couldn't still recite it, but I could follow it. And I could recognize, a couple characters. And every day, I could recognize a little more. Of course, I wish, I had a dream just like Venerable Chona Batolo, that I wouldn't have to learn anything. I could learn every single language I want to learn, but still, when I read the story again after many years, I realized, the Avatamsaka actually helped me a lot in Chinese. Classes, of course, helped, but I usually forget a lot of what I learned. But reinforcing it every day, every morning, reciting it over and over again, I began to catch up, and I began to recognize all these characters. Even though I didn't know all the meanings, I could recite them. So that made me very happy. And I really like what I read, and so it's a story I wanted to share with all of you. But the Avatamsaka is a sutra that is very inconceivable. Every time I open and read it again, I have a different feeling every time, just because of the limitless practices all the bodhisattvas do. And I hope one day I might be able to do that.
Actually, this is a very good story. Guo Fan should share her experiences. That's how you can be vigorous. Talking about vigor is not. You don't have to do like with all your energy. We in Chinese we say 细水长流. Okay, and how do you say 细水长流? It's like a stream with not so much water, and it can flow long or forever. If you have a rapid, flow, and then maybe it will be stopped very easily by anything. So to be vigorous, that you also need to adapt your ability. Don't overdo it. A lot of time, people can start in a very vigorous way, but then after a little while, they get tired and they just run away, and then this is too hard. This is too hard. I have a story about Chou Na Batolo Zusi, and I like that story. So since Guo Fan mentioned him, I think that maybe we can talk about that. Chou Na Batolo, he was a very kind person. He was very generous. Before he became a monk, he was a flower shop owner. And this flower shop owner likes to tie affinity with his clients, So there was a prostitute in the city, and she always sent her servant to the flower shop to buy flowers. And one time, the servant brought a lot of the flowers back that day, and she asked her, "I didn't give you that money. How come you have you bought so many today?" And said, "Oh no, the owner want to give me more." And so, how's the owner? Why did he give you so many today? And she said, "Well, he's just a very kind person, and he looks very handsome." And the maid described the owners. "Oh, maybe you can ask him to come to meet me," but the owner never showed. And this prostitute had lots of friends and coming, and at that time he was hanging out with a young man who came from a rich family. But then because of another businessman came, so this prostitute changed her mind, and he didn't know how to get rid of her boyfriend. So what she did was she killed this young man, from a rich family. And then after she killed him, she buried him in her garden. And then the young man's parents couldn't find their son, so they went to the police and report the missing of their son. So the police started to investigate, and then they found this prostitute had connection with the man. So they came to check her house, and then they found the body in her garden. And since she committed a crime and was sent to the prison, and then later her body was, how do you say, amputated, and so she became a handicap because her limbs were gone. She couldn't comb her hair. And now that this flower shop owner, he was a practitioner actually, so he understand the lady tried to, connected with him, but now she is in a very difficult situation. So Chona Batolo came to visit her. And this prostitute was very upset. She said, "Why are you here? What do you mean? When I asked my maid to get you to come to meet me, you don't want to come. And now I'm handicapped. I'm, very shabby now. And you come here to look at me. What do you mean? What do you want? So guess what he said? He said, I come here to see the reality. Even though, you don't have the beautiful appearance like you used to have, but your mind is still there. Your identity will never change because of your appearance. And he talked about, we are all made of the 4 elements, and the 4 elements will go away, and then, everything will gone. He go into the, very deep Dharma. And so this prostitute, along, this conversation, she feel more and more, fascinated by the Dharma. She never heard about this. We are all conditioned, and the 4 elements, made us, and the 5 skandhas, and, all kinds of things that you already know, before. And when all these conditions are gone, then, we don't look the same. But the true mind is still there. So she heard the Dharma. She feels so happy, because when she feels so frustrated and she couldn't face it, she couldn't take it, and she felt very miserable. But then now at that point, like this Dharma friend asked, where can you start to find your true mind? That's where you can find your true mind. When everything is gone, but you are still there, no matter how you think about yourself, but we never know how we really are. So this prostitute became awakened. She left far behind the defilements, and all the, so she attained that 法眼镜, the purity of the Dharma eye. So that's the story I know about Chona Batolo. So that was before he came to China. Another story about vigorous I can share with you is about Confucius. Confucius studied music, and he studied the music from Shi Xiangzi. Shi Xiangzi was his teacher, and one time he learned a song from Shi Xiangzi. And so Shi Xiangzi encouraged him, you can learn another song. But Confucius said, no, I'm not familiar with the tonality. I'm not familiar with the tone yet. I need more days to practice. So the teacher waited a few days and asked him, no, you can start to learn another piece. He said, no. I'm only, the tonality is well known now, but I'm not familiar with the skills yet. I don't have that skill. I need to, the skill is not familiar to me. I need to practice in more days. I need to practice more. So after a few days, the teacher started to ask him, push him again. Now, are you ready to study, to learn another piece? Confucius said, even though I know the tonality and I have the skills, but I don't know the substance of the song, the music. I still need to practice it. So he didn't stop. He didn't, how focused he was, he didn't shift. He still pay attention and practice that music. So when he understands, when he is very familiar with the tonality and he had the skills and he tried to figure out the substance of the song, and then after a while the teacher came again. So now are you ready to learn another piece? No. I need to know how this person, the composer, the writer, behave. I need to know his disposition. So he still, didn't give up. He still focused on that practice, practicing that piece. And then after a while, he told his teacher, I know how about this composer, this writer. His face is dark, and he's very tall. And so when he played that music, he feels so joy. He understands. He's very familiar with the tonality. He has that skills, and he knows the substance of the song, and he even know about the composer. And he said, this is the chant of Emperor Wen, Wen Wangcao. So Shi Xiangzi, his teacher, all of a sudden he remembered, yes, that's the Wen Wangcao, this music, and he was amazed, and then he respect his student Confucius, how vigorous he was, and he can, so focus on his practice, and then he stood up to bow to Confucius. Okay, so this is kind of an attitude in our cultivation. We need to have that kind of attitude and to be really versed in some practice. I know this is so not relevant to the days we have now. Nowadays, because of the overwhelming of the technology and the information, everybody's mind is so busy and entertains so many information. But if we can, always not losing our deep resolve and focus to remove the obstacles. I want to know about this writer, how he looks, how he, and I want to know about everything about this song. Before I'm not, good at it, I will not shift. I will not change my mind. I think that right attitude will bring the success of a cultivator, even though we are studying the Avatamsaka Sutra here, we can always relate this to our daily practice, to our life. Like Confucianism, they talk about how can you become a sage. Sages, they never made the second mistakes. If they made mistakes, they will never make it second time. That's how careful, that's how focused. They never they don't lose that mindfulness. Okay. And so if we are busy in reading or receiving a lot of too much information nowadays, our mind becomes very busy, and we cannot afford that, So it's not easy to be focused, to be vigorous. Any comments or questions? Do you think it's easy? In the early years, I heard a comment. The reason why, we all have Buddha nature. We all have, that perfect enlightenment. Why we cannot realize it? When I heard it in my early years, I knew it was we living beings are lack of vigor. It's just because we slack off. We are lazy. We are lazy. So we cannot become Buddhas. But I'm sure you are all good. You are not lazy, so you come here, continue your investigating the sutra. There are still 10 minutes. Maybe we can finish this paragraph. Okay. So he experiences profound joy. this I talk about, we may not have that profound joy, but if you study the Buddha Dharma, you take notes and you practice chanting Namo Amitofo nonstop, you will experience joy. Where does the joy come from? Joy comes from your innate nature. Your joy is innate, basically. Right? One of the four characteristics of Nirvana. That's how we are. We are joyful. We are joyful. We are joyous. The reason why we don't experience that profound joy because we are so busy in harboring all kinds of thoughts. We have too many thoughts. Thoughts distract us. Thoughts cover up our joy. So when a practitioner is able to focus free of doubts and delusions, so this person have gained that clarity, that purity, so you will connect to that inherent joy. And that's how the Bodhisattva experience now. The Buddha stay close by him. Do you think the Buddha doesn't stay close to you? Huh? Yes. Favor the Bodhisattva on the fourth ground. Mm-hmm. The mind is the Buddha. Buddhas are not apart from our mind. Buddhas don't come from outside. The mind is Buddha. When you are free of defilement, the mind becomes Buddha. You don't become a Buddha outside. You don't become a Buddha, from any external condition. It's inside, a transformation of the mind. When your mind is transformed, your mind is Buddha. So when this Bodhisattva, of course, when the Bodhisattvas or the practitioners realize that state, free of the delusions and doubts, and restore that clarity, and then experience profound joy, Buddhas are close by. Buddhas never are apart from the mind. So when you realize that samadhi, when you have that joy, when you have free of the doubts and delusions, you will see Buddhas. You will experience that. Oh, so Buddha has been, always protecting me or watching me, because there's no severance between you and the Buddhas. And when that severance are gone, so, the Buddhas stay close by me, protect me, keep me in mind. We have read a lot of the sutra talking about, Buddhas kept living beings in mind. They always watch, this living being's condition is right. Now is the time for me to teach him and transform him, help him to realize the inherent nature, to be awakened. Right? We all read this. 佛要讲法之前都要观这个因缘，这个因缘成熟了，佛来讲法。So every time before the Buddha speak the Dharma, he will contemplate who is the person that I need to go to teach and transform. If the conditions are not right, the Buddhas, even though Buddhas want to stay close by, protect you, guard you, you will not notice. You will not get that, benefit. You, like Yu Qing said, once he said, when you want to, see the Buddhas, you will be able. Everything arises from the mind. Anything you seek, you will get. Right? Do you believe this? I hope you do. anything you seek, you will get. Because everything arises from your mind. It's like the echo in the valley. You yell loud and there's an echo coming back. So the law of attraction doesn't sound strange, because that's Buddha Dharma. Whatever you seek, you can find it. And Buddha never, being separate from you. They always watch us, So his limitless resolutions and inclinations all become accomplished. So the last phrase, the Buddha stay close by him, protect him, and keep him in mind. This is because of the ability to transform beings. Okay, Buddhas have that mind, have that wish or that vows to transform, to teach and transform all beings. So when the bodhisattvas are doing everything right, then he will find out that the Buddhas will manifest and bless him. And so the last one is kind of, his limitless resolution and inclinations all become accomplished. Why? This is really wonderful. This is also talking about the obstacles to gain wisdom is gone. Bodhisattvas, they need to have expedient means to cross over living beings. And when the bodhisattvas are in samadhi, they have that wisdom to cross all living beings, to get the wisdom to what kind of expedient means I need to use to help this being? What kind of expedient means I need to use for that being? And the bodhisattvas are free of all the obstacles to gain that wisdom, right? So this is different from earlier one. Which one? Number 5. He lets go of all doubts and delusions. That one is ordinary obstacles, but this one is much profound because the bodhisattvas can help all kinds of beings in his samadhi. He can enter samadhi to contemplate. How can I entertain this person? How can I make this person feel interesting about this sutra or about this practice? The Bodhisattva contemplates, sit in meditation, and he knew. I don't have that skill, so I don't know how to entertain you. But I hope you had enjoyed the discussion this evening, and be reassured about your cultivation, how you can make progress. Even though this text talks about the Bodhisattva on the 4th ground, but we can have some ideas, how we can learn from them. Do you have other stories? Any questions or comments? Maybe since you don't have questions or comments, maybe each one of you share what you will bring back today with you. How's that? Who likes to go first? Yes, please. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, please.
I think what you just said, what you were about what we project or what we think is really amazing.
Yeah. So when different times Venerable Master mentioned that as a cultivator, the first thing we want to stay happy. When we are challenged by a difficult situation and we are annoyed or afflicted, then it takes a lot of time or energy to restore that peaceful state. Okay, so no matter how what kind of a situation you experience, you always shift back. I can be happy even though this is a very challenging moment, but it doesn't. It's good or bad. It's all my time. So thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Wendy or Nancy? I forgot your name. What is your name? Do you want to share something? Connie? Do you think to
We can't hear you very clearly.
but what? So you will remember, never lose your deep resolve.
Yeah.
Good.
So Master, before close the lecture,
Yeah.
would you please give us one story or two? Because today is Guan Bodhisattva's birthday. So give us Guan Bodhisattva's birthday, got into the deep resolve, the Shenxin, to inspire all of us. Please.
Okay.
If you want to talk about the mind.
And of course, Dharma Sutta just said now, everything is from our minds. So the heavens are in our minds, we're created from our minds, the hells are created from our minds. So if you were wanting a story to inspire, another one on Avatamsaka. A long time ago, there was a Dharma master named Wang Minggan. In the olden days, nowadays all the Dharma masters, their last name is Shi from Shakyamuni Buddha. But there was a time in China that some of the Dharma masters could have their own, they could keep their own last names since they were a laity. So this particular Dharma master, after he became a monk, he didn't cultivate and he was very casual. He did whatever he wanted to do. So one day, the ghost of impermanence came to, lead him to King Yama in the underworld. Of course, he was very scared. When he went to the underworld, at the gate of the underworld, the ghost left him, told him to wait. And guess who he saw? He saw Earthstore Bodhisattva. Because Earthstore Bodhisattva made a great vow, saying that as long as the hells are not empty, I will not become a Buddha. So he's always there. So he said, "You look very frightened." And Wang Mingzhao said, "Yes, I'm very frightened." He said, "Don't worry. When you see King Yama, just tell him a verse." And I'm quite sure you're very familiar with this. I'm more familiar with this verse in Chinese than I am in English. But it goes, "If people wish to fully understand all Buddhas of the 3 periods of time, they should contemplate the nature of the Dharma realm. Everything is made from the mind alone." Sound familiar? We chant it every day in Chinese at evening ceremony. So the monk Wang Mingzhao Wang Minggan, sorry, was very frightened. But all he could remember is this verse because the Bodhisattva told him to remember this. So he kept reciting it. When he went in to see King Yama saw he was a left-arm person. He said, "Oh, so you're a left-arm person. What merit and virtue do you have?" And all he could, Wang Minggan could think of was to recite this verse. So he said, "If people wish to fully understand all Buddhas of the 3 periods of time, they should contemplate the nature of the Dharma realm. All things are made from the mind alone." when King Yama heard this, he said, "Oh, very good." He very respectfully told him, "You could go back." Actually, when he recited this verse, every word he pronounced lit up with light. And all the hell beings during that time also attained the benefit from him. And they all got liberated. So in reality, in this life, Waminkan actually died for 3 days. And he woke up again. So he remembered this verse, and he kept on, from then on, he never dare slacked off again. He kept on reciting this verse over and over and over again. Everywhere he went, if he met somebody and he could tell them, he would tell him a story. One day he met a Dharma master. He asked him, "Do you know where this verse comes from?" He said, "Yes, it's from the Avatamsaka Sutra. And in this scroll and in this verse." And so, the monk Wamingan said, "Okay," and he looked it up, and it really was. And from then on, he cultivated the Avatamsaka Sutra. So we know that everything is from the minds. The hells are from the minds. The heavens are from the minds. And, it's said that all the 5 desires, wealth, food, fame, sleep, and sex, those are the 5 paths to hell. It doesn't matter which one you pick, you're going to go to hell. So as long as you don't pick these 5 desires, you won't create any hells. But if you go down one of those paths, hell is very real. So we don't want to go down this path, but it's all in our minds. As long as we can get rid of it, let it go, then we won't go to hell, basically.
So I'll tell you what about Guanyin Bodhisattva, since you mentioned today is Guanyin Bodhisattva's birthday, a deep resolve of Guanyin Bodhisattva. I think if you have read the Universal Door chapter, you will know that Guanyin Bodhisattva always make a vow to help beings and for limitless eons. It's an infinite number, long times. The Bodhisattva always want to help beings. And how? She used Great Compassion Mantra. So when that lifetime, she heard the Great Compassion Mantra, she immediately make a deep resolve. I want to benefit all beings. If my vow is sincere, is genuine, then I will, have 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes. And just right after she made that vow, and the 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes appear on her. Okay, and so that's because of the Great Compassion power, the Great Compassion Mantra power, so deeply rooted in the Bodhisattva's mind. Upon hearing the mantra, she made the same vow. And that vow is made life after life. Every lifetime, when the Bodhisattva heard the Great Compassion Mantra, she made the same vow. I want to benefit all beings. If my vow is genuine, I will have the 1,000 hands and eyes. I think that's something I also saw from the Venerable Master, and to become a Bodhisattva or become a Buddha, it takes a long, long time to process. And the reason why they don't retreat, they don't retreat from this long journey is because of that vow. All the Bodhisattvas make a vow. Like Guofangsi just mentioned, Earth Door Bodhisattva. The Earth Door Bodhisattva also have, very deep and vast vow for all beings. So that's something when you ask, I think that's, something we should learn and we shouldn't forget, never lose our deep resolve. You want to be happy, you need to know the direction, how to get happiness. If we are not following the path and, just indulge in our desires and want to satisfy our desires for the food and the sleep and the fame and what else? Wealth. That's just the route, and the path to hell. It's not to liberation, not to awakening. So I think that's enough for tonight. We can make transference. Oh, sorry. Announcement from Dao Master Daxing. Thank you. Wow. Dr. Henry Rosemont is coming to lecture on April 5th on Translation and Interpretation, Wrestling with the Meanings. You all know Dr. Henry Rosemont. He's an old friend of the Institute for World Religions. So April 5th, starting from 7:30. Okay, he's expert for Confucianism and long time friend. So I hope everybody can come. Any other announcement? Uh-huh. Yeah. There's a time for question and answer. Yes. Please come. Okay. No more announcement, right? Okay, now we can do transference. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace, with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to rain compassion, wisdom, and joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light bright the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain seems to paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise.